Alrighty guys, this video is on how to integrate somatics into your training. Now, somatics is a fancy word for the field of inquiry that surrounds the feelings you get from your body. So a somatic practice is a body awareness practice in simple terms. So what we're talking about is how to integrate more body awareness into your training. Now, why would you want to do this? There are a couple reasons. So number one, the more aware you are of your body, the less likely you are to injure yourself, and the less severe that injury is likely to be. Number two, when you learn to listen to your body, you get to know yourself. You get to know your moods, your emotions, your biases, because the body is the first signal that our biochemical state has changed. And our biochemistry is what affects our thoughts and emotions. It's how we select our beliefs about the world. So that's a pretty big reason to do it. And what are a few examples of popular somatic practices? Well, meditation is one, specifically the body scan, where you go from head to toe and just inquire into what you're feeling in the body. Yoga is a very common one as well, where a teacher will often not only give you physical instruction, but they will border into the metaphysical or the philosophical. They'll say, spread your toes into the floor and feel for the sense of grounding. Now, grounding isn't like a mechanical cue. It doesn't mean spread your toes or press them into the floor. Grounding is a feeling. It's a feeling that you can have in the body that is a little bit more subjective or internal. So a somatic practice or a body awareness practice deals with the subjective and the internal. And when you combine that with the scientific approach to training, where you're measuring what you're doing, you're progressively overloading, meaning that you're just adding a little bit of something each week to get better, then you have this beautiful kind of yin and yang combination. You have the external and the internal. You've got your goals, your orientations, your outward visions of what you want to achieve with your training. Maybe it's to get stronger, maybe it's to get more supple, maybe it's to resolve a niggle. And then you also have the internal information, which is your body telling you what it thinks of the way you're training. Now, it's important to listen to your body for a few reasons, and longevity is a huge one, right? So we touched on this before with injury prevention and mitigation. Longevity means that you get to stay in the game longer. And longevity isn't boring. It's not cautious and silly. Longevity means that you can put in quality training time over a period of 5, 10, 15, and 20 years. If you're able to do that, you will inevitably get more reps in, and you'll get better at the thing you're doing than someone who trains really hard but can only sustain that for a few months or for a couple years before they either burn out or severely injure themselves. I speak from my own experience. I can say that I was that latter person. I trained really hard. I didn't listen to my body. I was all gas and no brakes, and it worked for a while, and then it really didn't work. Everything came toppling over. I had chronic back pain, and I had to go through a 4 to 5 year journey to kind of understand that and figure it out and get myself back on track. So the end result is that I've spent like 8 years, over 8 years, I spent maybe 3 or 4 in solid training, and then another 4 or 5 figuring out my injuries. So there's an example of why longevity can really save you a lot of trouble. And I think that's a great reason to incorporate body awareness. But also, that body awareness helps you get to know yourself. This might seem like an abstract idea. What do you mean, get to know yourself? Like, I'm training, I want to get strong, I want to get more athletic. But getting to know yourself is important, because there was a reason why you started that sport. There was a reason why you selected that way of training in the first place. Be it powerlifting, climbing, there is a part of us which is seeking a particular feeling or quality of being. What do I mean by quality of being? I mean Like the most obvious example is if you go do powerlifting, you want to feel strong. Now, strength isn't just a measure, like how much can you lift. It's also a quality. It's a feeling in the body. It's a state of being. I want to feel strong. Because some people can be very strong, but not ever feel strong. And in fact, a lot of people who take strength to the extreme have a sense of inadequacy within them. So it's important to have both, to be aware of what you're looking for and how you want to feel in a physical practice or a training regime, and also to have the external linear progress, which, feeds you. It fuels your ego in the best way possible and helps you to grow as a human being. But when we have too much focus on the training and not enough on the internal part, the body awareness, the somatics, the knowledge of self through the body, then we miss out on that big picture understanding of why we're doing what we're doing. Now, this becomes specifically or very obviously important when someone has an injury that keeps on recurring, or when someone becomes injury prone, or hits a particular plateau, because often it's a behavioral limitation that stops them from progressing. Like they'll stick to a program for a couple of months and they'll always fall off the back. They always stop training after that. Or maybe they're doing some rehab exercises and they work well for a while and then they lose consistency. Sometimes it's because that person has a habit of doing something that they didn't really want to do, and then inevitably getting bored of it, because you can only do something that you hate doing for so long before you just say, hey, fuck this. So that person keeps skipping from thing to thing to thing to thing, trying different things, but none of them are right. And they can't find consistency or progress or growth with any of the things they try because of that recurring pattern. Now, if this person was more aware of their body, if they were able to understand the feedback they were getting from their body, little things like heart rate, breathing, emotions, then every time they met a new program, a new health practitioner who was helping them, a new coach, they could listen to how they were really feeling and recognize that part of them didn't really resonate with that program, with that practitioner, with that coach. And because they don't resonate, they're never really going to make that much progress in that particular system. When something really resonates with you, you know, because you find yourself doing it and it's not a chore. You find yourself almost missing it when you stop doing it. And it's usually more of a slow burn. But when we're focused externally and we're looking at how we think we should be, then we often try really hard and then run out of energy. So can you see the difference? When you're seeking external things, you want to be like someone else, you want to do what you think you should do, you go really hard, you end up failing. But when you listen to what your body wants, what your true self wants, or your higher self, then it's much more likely that you'll end up making consistent progress. And in the beginning, that might even mean that you end up doing something which is seemingly unproductive, seemingly different from what you normally do. And that can be challenging. For example, if I've spent years focusing on getting stronger, building bigger arms or getting better pull-ups or squats, and then my body decides I've had enough of that, I want to just go surf or swim or be fluid for a while, and relax in my muscles, relax my muscle tone, experiment with a different kind of movement. My body wants that, but my mind, my identity is still attached to lifting or getting big or getting strong. Then there's this conflict. And this often happens. We get stuck doing things that we don't really need to be doing or truly deeply want to be doing. And the body doesn't want us to be doing because we think we should, because we have done in the past. We think we have to be consistent with how we have been. And so we're loyal to a particular identity. We're loyal to a particular training system, coach, program, whatever it is, you name it, rather than being loyal to the present, immediate, and ever-changing information that our body is giving us. And so we end up having this sense of separateness from our body, where we have a head and a body that don't quite relate to one another. We have a mind that's confused as to why the body's getting injured. We don't understand why we keep facing the same recurring problems. But it is because we've severed this link by constantly going against what our body is telling us. Now, this might sound a bit abstract to some people. Well, my body is telling me, what's my body telling me? Listen to my body? How do I listen to my body? So it's not like your body speaks, of course. It is just like your body offers you feelings. And if you get into the practice, and this is why yoga and meditation can be so good, of observing those feelings without judgment, and rather than immediately acting on them, just sit with them for a bit, see what happens. Do they get stronger? Do they fade away? Do they change? Be curious about those feelings. Identify where they're coming from in your body. You start to do that, you get better at it. Like anything, if you practice opening your awareness to the feelings in your body, you're able to progressively get more pinpoint in understanding them. For example, I coach a lot of people, and some of these people will say, oh, this exercise, it kind of hurts my knee, or that feels tight. And I always ask them, when you say hurt, what do you mean? Can you describe that feeling for me? Because there are lots of different kinds of pain, and sometimes people say it hurts when actually it's a good hurt. You know what I mean? So usually they'll say something like that. Yeah, like it's a good hurt, or it's a bad hurt, or it just feels stiff. It just feels stuck. And I keep pressing them. Hey, tell me more. Describe this better. Because the more you can label and externalize an experience, the more aware of that experience you become. And once you use a particular descriptor or word to point to that experience, you can then become aware of whether or not that descriptor was accurate. So sometimes people will be like, oh, it hurts. Oh, no, actually, it doesn't hurt. It's just uncomfortable. And I'm like, well, is it more of a satisfying uncomfortable, or is it like I should stop uncomfortable? And oh, no, it's a satisfying uncomfortable. Actually, oh, you know what? The more I do this, the better it's getting. So through a process of labeling and reflecting and identifying the sensation in the body, and not judging as good or bad, but just staying open, we progressively get more specific and granular in our ability to describe what's going on in the body. And the more we can describe what's going on in the body, the more we can express that, the more space we gain to become more aware of it again and to reflect even deeper and to understand it even more. When I say granular, what I'm talking about is like if you imagine a color wheel where you have all of the visible spectrum of colors. Now, if someone doesn't have words to describe the colors, let's say that the only words that they know are red, blue, yellow, and green, then they'll look at that color wheel and they'll see red, blue, yellow, and green, and they'll see some other things going on between those colors. And maybe they'll say it's reddish yellow. It's a yellowy reddy color. Making your descriptors more granular means finding a new word which is specific. Like, oh no, that's not reddy yellow, that's orange. And so suddenly you don't just have red, reddy yellow, yellowy red, whatever. You have red, orange, yellow. So you've added another word, added another color, and your complexity of understanding around the colors has increased. It's become more granular. It's the same in the body. You go from this hurts in a good way, or this hurts in a bad way, to this is uncomfortable, and it's a searing sensation which feels a little bit like blue tack. But if I move into it and relax my muscles, then it becomes satisfying and it releases. Can you see how there we've become much more descriptive? So this is how you practice body awareness. It's an integration of the feelings in the body and the understanding of the conscious mind. And the more you can have these two things work with each other, the more of a dialogue or an up and down transmission you have between the body and the brain, the more somatic awareness you have, the more body awareness you have. And that sums it up. So some people can essentially listen, if you want to use that word, to their body to the point where they're so tuned in that they can tell that they're starting to go in the direction of getting sick 3 weeks before they get a cold. There are people who are experienced enough that they can tell that they might get injured if they continue doing what they're doing, so they stop before getting injured. And they will be reading into very subtle cues, very subtle signals that their body's giving them that someone else just couldn't pick up. And that other person who can't pick up those signals, it's probably just because they're in the habit of ignoring them. They probably don't know that they can listen to them. They probably kind of swept them aside under the rug, because we're often brought up to rely on our brain excessively, to think mind over matter. We're brought up sitting in chairs at school, kind of, with our heads in books, and that's how we learn. And we ignore needing to pee because we can't get up during the class. And all of these little patterns, which we can go into in a different talk, basically just get carried forward. We become very task-oriented. We want to get things done and we want to succeed externally, but we are disconnected from this internal process, which is always unfolding within our body. And so, somatics, body awareness, is the practice of reconnecting to the intelligence, the signals, the feedback, the biochemistry in a direct way, where rather than having to look at a watch like a Garmin, rather than having to have someone test your heart rate or blood pressure, you have a direct felt experience of the biochemical changes in your body. And that experience is guiding you in your decision making and teaching you how to self-regulate, how to release more energy or how to conserve energy, how to lift your state or relax your state, how to experience discomfort without labeling it immediately. So this is the attuned relationship to the body. And this is what I love to share. When you combine it with your training and you have effective, measurable, scientific approaches to getting strong, getting supple, resolving your injuries, then this gives you a fantastic, comprehensive system of figuring things out and of making progress. I think it's a fantastic, fantastic area. I think more and more health practitioners, coaches, physios, osteos, doctors are starting to understand this. And we're almost having this beautiful conversation now between traditional Eastern practices, yoga, Hinduism, Buddhism, practices that are more aware of the felt experience of being human, and the more Western modern practices of analysis, of medicine, of empirical data-based science. So a good place to be. It's only going to get better. Hope you found this interesting, guys. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know, as always, if you have an injury, niggle, training issue, plateau that you're looking to work through. I can help you get stronger, suppler, and feel better in your body than you have before. And if I can't, we'll find you someone who can. So head to attuned.space/1-to-1 to check out my coaching options. It's 1-2-1. I'll put it in the description. And also on there, you can book a call with me. You can chat with me for 40 minutes. I'll help you as much as I can, set you up with a bit of a strategy after learning about your situation. And then if you have any questions about the coaching process, you can ask away. Cheers.